And away we go. It is the Nightcap, brought to you by Hail Mary Sports Bar right here on BearcatJournal.com. 1 day away. Westfest is back. After a 10-year break, Westfest kicks off Friday, June 20th. It rocks all weekend long. Guess what? Hail Mary's is right in the heart of the action. The main outdoor Westfest stage, that's right. It's right in front of Hail Mary's. They've also teamed up with Triple J's Barbecue to bring you a mouthwatering restaurant experience all weekend. Get ready for some amazing barbecue. Remember, 21 plus to enter the bar, and you'll need a physical valid ID to get into Westfest. Cool off with our $5 domestics and 22-ounce drafts, ice cold beer, ice cold air conditioning. You're going to need it this weekend. It's going to be hot. That, great music, great food, all waiting for you at Hail Mary's. They'll see everybody this weekend. Pretty crazy, Aaron. I'm going to Florida in June, and it's going to be like 10 degrees hotter in Cincinnati than it's going to be in Daytona Beach.
I'm going to North Carolina next week, the whole week, and it's going to be pretty much high in the mid 80s and low in the upper 70s, and I'm stoked.
Yeah, that's the Florida, like the Daytona Beach forecast is like 86 degrees Sunday through Wednesday.
I think that's the highest temperature. We're there Saturday to Saturday, and I think it's the exact same.
Yeah,
I don't think it's hotter than 86. The low at night is like 79 almost every day. So
yeah.
Perfect.
I'm excited. Can't wait. This might be our last show for a while with you and I. It will be our last show for a while for you and I. I've got Keegan's wedding tomorrow night.
If I need to get away, I will send out the bat signal, and I'll let you know.
Need to do a show. How about this, Aaron? So I had Keegan on radio yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And as the bumper music, Taryn played "Let's Get Married." Baby, let's get married, right?
First of all,
right. And I was like, "We gonna hear this Friday night?" And Keegan was like, "Absolutely not." And I was like, "What are we doing?"
After he got done talking about how, was it him? I can't remember if it was him or Dave who said no line dances. That might have been Dave. I don't know. Maybe it was Keegan who said no line dances. Regardless, I at this point have no faith in this playlist for Keegan's wedding.
Then he informed me his brother's baseball number was 24. Why do you think his brother's baseball number was 24?
Probably should have been Griffey, but I'm intrigued to hear what your reasoning is.
Big Jeff Gordon fan. And I think the only beer they have at this wedding reception is Busch Light.
I thought another one. They are definitely having Busch Light, but there was definitely another one. It wasn't
Miller Lite and Busch Light. I think it was Miller Lite and Busch Light.
That might actually be accurate.
And I think it's accurate. And it's in Hamilton. I don't know that I'm going to be at this reception long.
cut from a different cloth.
It's not the type of wedding I'm used to, but I'm excited to go. Carissa's awesome. Keegan's okay. We'll see how it goes tomorrow night at the Nickerson nuptials. But yeah, it might be a little while before you and I are back in this chair. So
time will tell.
We have talked plenty about
Ross Dellinger,
NCAA stuff, Ross Dellinger stuff. We needed to like cleanse the palate going into this little mini break here at the end of June. So we're going to get back to our positional previews for football. We're going to go with tight end. Keegan does have an article. This was one of his first positional previews on Bearcat Journal. You can scroll through the message board to find it.
May 1st. He wrote it on May 1st.
Let's talk tight ends, Aaron. And what better way to start than one of the best tight ends in America, Joe Royer? Aaron, did you see the picture of him the other day?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. You talk about Joe Royer for a second, and I will bring up this picture.
All right. Well, it's going to be, I think it'll be a little tough given some of the weapons at Swordsby's disposal to top the stats that Joe Royer put up last season. 50 catches, 522 yards for an average of 10-4, 3 touchdowns. His long was 38. That was a little surprising to me. I thought he had a longer play than 38 yards. But all in all, 50 catches. That was a hell of a year for a tight end here at the University of Cincinnati. That said, I don't think him topping it is crazy talk, despite it being one of the best seasons ever for a tight end at UC. So that said, he certainly has a lot to build on. It did break Travis's single season reception record of 45. So I don't know. He is obviously a massive, massive offensive threat for Sorsby and for Coach Satterfield. And I don't think it's crazy to say that he's still just scratching the surface. Yeah. I mean, look, we knew that we've always talked about since he got here. We've talked about how he looks like a guy that you created on Madden.
That's more so than he's ever looked like since he's been here. Like he is yoked right now.
He's also
that's impressive.
Training. This is going to be his last season, obviously.
Yeah.
And he's training for the NFL at this point. And I'm sure that was probably part of his offseason workouts was, hey, I don't want to just be college ready. I need to be NFL ready. Put me through what I would need to do next offseason, and let's just get started right now.
Yeah, for sure. He looks great. Mindset is great. He's got the relationship with Sorsby now that's advanced, not just in the early stages.
They're all the way to the point where they are spending MLB The Show money and letting each other know how much they're spending on the show.
An unhealthy amount of their NIL is going to MLB The Show.
Look, I think any dollar that you spend on a video game like that, on those microtransactions, is an unhealthy amount. But
I agree. Anywho, I think he has a better season than last year, statistically and like just in the overall grand scheme of things, which means once again, he will have the most productive season as a tight end in UC history under his belt. He'd have the top 2.
Will you be surprised if he's not a captain?
Yeah.
I agree. I think at this point it's going to be offensively. Thorsby, of course, he'll have the C on his chest, and I think Royer is the other, and Gavin.
It's Gavin's
yes,
captain for 3
Staple.
years. Like they're not.
Staple.
They're not. Yeah,
correct.
So, I think he'll be a captain. I think he's earned that right. And
well, I expect to see him kind of be more vocally, I think, this season than maybe what we've seen.
He's generally a pretty quiet dude, but like I think he understands like the better season his team has, the better chance he has, of moving up the draft boards.
Well, and he talked about it when he was on with us. I think it was for 513 Day, when he essentially said like he got caught chirping a little bit more than what he normally does in the spring game, and I think that's kind of just a glimpse of what we're probably going to see out of him this season. As you can do things like that when you have that captain status. You can do things like that, whether this captaincy is on his chest or not. I think he's going to be representing himself as such.
If you told me today, June 19th, that your pick, when we get to the last game of the season, be it a regular season game, a bowl game, whatever, and you told me your offensive MVP was Joe Royer, I would be like, okay, that's That's not just reasonable. That's like one of the odds-on favorites to be in that position.
Yeah. And I think at this point, we'd probably all be a little disappointed if he's not up there.
Yeah. I mean, but like, okay, Joe Royer was the offensive MVP. I think we'd all be like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. That was completely within the realm of expectations.
That's what I'm saying, though, is my point is I think we'd be disappointed if his name wasn't in the conversation. If he's not head and shoulders above the rest, if he's not in that conversation, something went very wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Patrick Gird, he's a beast-looking human, 6'4", 250. He's gonna play in that H-back role that Satterfield loves. Inline tight end, fullback, quarterback protector, like whatever you want to call it. Patrick Gird is built for that role. He played it in the national championship game last year. He's got a ring. Like, he knows what winning is all about. Phenomenal addition. Phenomenal addition. He's probably not going to have a ton of stats, but he's going to be an impactful player.
Unplug Francis Sherman. Upgrade,
yeah.
Plug in Patrick Gird. That's essentially what you just did. I think that you're going to see Gird making some plays that maybe Francis Sherman wasn't just physically capable of doing last season. And that's not a knock on Francis Sherman. I think that Patrick Gird is just built different. And
I thought Sherman did everything that they asked of him last year.
Agreed.
When he was on the field.
I just think you're going to see that taken to another level, I guess.
Sure.
And I think that's, especially towards the end of the season, we saw Sorsby maybe having a little less pocket presence than he did earlier in the season. And I think, you would think that having a guy like Patrick Gird available is going to perhaps fix some of that. Not necessarily completely, like Sorsby is just always going to be in a clean pocket. But this is an excellent weapon to have in your arsenal when you are looking for a little bit extra pass protection from guys who are maybe breaking through early in the game.
Yeah. Two guys in their second year, big expectations now and going forward. Gavin Grover is a sophomore. He didn't end up using his redshirt season last year. Devin Zahersky is a redshirt freshman. They were very high on these two guys when they came in. That has not slowed down. Gavin Grover as more of a pass catching type, 6'6", 255, good hands, runs good routes. They liked him a lot last year. He didn't end up getting a ball thrown his way. I think that's going to change this year. And then Zahersky is kind of that, two-way
hybrid. Yeah.
He'll run some routes, hybrid. He'll run some routes, be a pass catcher, but more of a traditional, like old school tight end. He's going to be in line. He's going to block. He's going to be physical. A guy that you can count on in different ways.
You've seen both of these guys probably more so than anybody who isn't on the actual staff.
Yeah.
That said, I'm just scratching my head wondering how these guys are going to find reps on the field with Gird and Royer ahead of them. And that's not to say that they aren't skilled. It's just where are the reps coming from? So it'd be extremely curious to me to see us run a 2 tight end set with Grover and Joe Royer. That gives you something that you don't have if you run a 2 tight end set with
2 pass catching tight ends. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's something you don't have with Royer and Gird. Or on the flip side of that, if you run a 2 tight end set with Gird and Zahersky and you're running like a jumbo package and trying to really get some extra yardage that you might not have been able to get otherwise.
Or short yardage, yeah.
So I think they do offer some different looks than you may have been able to run, especially with them in their second year in the system. So I think it's going to be, because I'm scratching my head, I think it's going to be extremely interesting to see how these two are used, because I think it's going to be, I don't want to say it's going to be hard to keep them off the field, but I think you're going to have to find packages to get them on the field, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And look, I mean, it's not likely Royer's coming off the field much.
Right.
For Grover to get on the field. But He's not going to take every snap. So you will
Not
see
Superman.
Grover some. No. So you will see Grover some. But yeah, I mean, they've got another year in apprenticeship kind of waiting, and then they'll get their turn. But Aaron, what makes that even more interesting, I think everybody that was at spring practice walked out impressed with the number of plays made by true freshmen out of Wayne and Dayton, Kamari Smith.
So when we talk about guys who it's going to be hard to keep them off the field, if his summer camp goes the same as spring ball went, Kamari Smith is chomping at the bit, and redshirting him is going to be extremely difficult if he's able to continue to come out and make plays damn near every time he's on the field.
Yeah. He was impressive throughout camp. And it was one of those, like, I always talk about the notebook, right? Like, I go back over the notebook and, okay, how many times did I write this guy's name down? Because it's easy to remember one or two plays, right? But when you go back through the notebook and you're like, well, those are the only one or two plays that guy made throughout camp, because it happens fast. So you're not always dialed into every note. But Kamari Smith had his name in my notebook a whole bunch. A whole bunch.
Even in the spring game, though, the plays that he was making weren't just standard plays. They were excellent plays. They were athletic plays. They were like, I don't know. The kid was, anytime his number was called, he was making it look, I don't know. It was fun to watch. He gets his hands on the ball, and he's fun to watch.
He's got good hands, soft hands. Runs good routes from everything I've seen. I know he's still got a long way to go in the blocking schemes and all the different things they need a tight end to do. But he flashed enough as a playmaker after 2 months on campus that
20 pounds.
Yeah.
20 he put on 20 pounds during spring ball. So I mean he's certainly putting on some weight, which is only going to help him try and figure out that whole blocking thing. So I'm very curious to see what Nico's able to do with him, what Coach Stepp is able to do with him, what Coach Satterfield is able to do with him. He's a fun guy to watch.
And then I was actually talking to someone, a source today, about something different. And then this name came up, and I was told might be the most physically impressive looking kid on the entire football roster. And that's a guy that just got here in Damari Witherspoon. 6'5", 220. And they said he just looks like one of those dudes that, you're like, whoa. Built the right way. Physically imposing at 6'5", 220.
Looking the part and playing the part are two very different things.
Sure, but guess what? I'll take a guy that looks the part over a guy that doesn't look the part.
Sure, in order to play the part, you do have to look the part.
Right.
So he's a guy who hasn't been nearly as ballyhooed as some of the other names on this list. So
Late
I'll be
bloomer.
Sure. So it'll be he's got plenty of work ahead of him.
Yeah.
But you like to hear that. Again, this kind of goes back to what we talk about all the time with the way that this staff in particular recruits is they find guys who have the body type that they want to get to. And you're talking about a guy who's well ahead of the curve. He's already doing this just a couple months into his freshman year.
Yeah. There you go. It's a great look at tight ends. I think it's going to be a strength, not just this year, but with this group that they've got lined up potentially for another 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Yep. We'll be back soon. I don't know when. Maybe it's not soon. I don't know, but we'll see you next time. That's the Nightcap, brought to you by Hail Mary Sports Bar, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!